welcome to Framework. It's John, one of the hosts of Framework. With me, as always, the other host of Framework, Al. Good afternoon, sir.
Oh, hey John, how you doing, man? We're here to talk about the Fantastic Four.
First steps.
You like this one, right?
Yeah, I like this one. I think it's solid. I think it's fun. I think it's an all right time in the movies. A pretty good superhero movie, essentially.
Yeah, I came out of it going, that was pretty good, and that it's been about 24 hours, and I can kind of already feel it, like my grade sinking a little bit of it. That I think one of the things that was helpful about it is that I liked the end, the third act, the best of the movie, and I think what hurts it is, maybe a bit of miscasting here or there, but mainly just that I think I'm really in the depths of superhero fatigue at this point.
Yeah, and I think that is something that Fantastic Four First Steps does not have an answer for, unfortunately.
No.
Same as Superman, honestly.
It feels like we just did this episode a couple weeks ago because this felt like the same movie as Superman in so many ways.
Yeah. I mean, and it is to some extent, we're both trying to do a new thing here. Warner Brothers and Disney, Marvel and DC are both trying to kind of, I don't know, chill people out a little bit. I get the sense. Do some regular superhero stuff. Get back to basics. Just focus on getting this one movie right, kind of, and take a step back from the larger, massive franchise maintenance that they were used to. But at the same time, we can't let go of that franchise maintenance. That's sort of a huge part of this. So it's kind of trying to do too many things at once, maybe.
It's that, yeah, they're both trying to do a reboot of sorts, but it's also with these like throwback Silver Age vibes in this brightly lit alternate reality where, wacky kaiju threats are commonplace. And you kind of mentioned like the consciously positive vibes, and they both make the same kind of decision to skip over the origin and drop us a couple years in to their like adventuring careers. They're definitely trying to do more standalone thing that work without having to be completely like caught up on all the homework of the previous universes. But like DC really needed that reboot, and Marvel, it's different. You could say it's in need of a reboot these days.
It's in need of a reboot, yes.
But not as bad as a DC was coming off.
Well,
like they
sure.
needed to wipe the slate from the Snyderverse. Like the MCU reached highs that the DC universe never did, so they can't throw it all that away.
Right.
And part of that is essential to the MCU project. Like it was always more than the sum of its parts.
Yeah, this is a feature, not a bug. This has
Right.
always been the intention, and it's kind of what set these apart initially, and what made them cool. Honestly, at first, was that that Thor and Captain America were going to hang out in the next movie. That was neat. That was a benefit, and so much so that everyone decided to do the same thing. And now we're fucking sick of it as a people, as a collective. We're kind of just like, if you can't do this, like at a high level. Higher than it has been, higher than it used to be even. It's really not worth anyone's time. And it is, in fact, operating at a lower level than it used to in most cases here. In all the MCU movies to a point, I would say the best ones of late have been the ones that kind of stood on their own. They're few and far between, but they're the good ones generally.
I mean, kind of, but it's still like... are you saying like Guardians of the Galaxy 3 stands on its own? Because it's not, it still stands as the third part of a trilogy. It's just not as dependent on the other 19 movies prior to that to keep things rolling.
Well, if you watch the new Captain America, Brave New World, it's just a disaster, man. It's just like, you can see the entire enterprise just falling apart. Just turning into sand in your hands, just like I've lost it all here. This, it's rotten. It's the worst case scenario of this kind of storytelling.
Well, I did not watch that one because I was concerned about something like that. I'm comfortable calling it an artistic achievement, even like that. What the MCU is doing, it was less about how like any of the individual entries stood up as pieces of transcendent cinema on their own, and more about how intricately they were all tied together and like intricately, but comfortably, breezily. Like it wasn't when it was working, it didn't feel like homework. And this, does not require any homework. But that means that it is just the sum of the parts. And so this is about as good as the median MCU movie, but doesn't have any of those like direct connections to all the others to kind of, there's a rising tide there. It comes out as lesser than, if you want to call it a 7 out of 10 superhero movie and you want to call random phase 2 entry a 7 out of 10 superhero movie, that phase 2 entry had a little bit of extra juice. And this does not. It's also kind of what I was getting at originally. First time it felt like DC's beaten Marvel to any punch. And having Superman
by a matter of weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've always, like, for 15 years, they've been a day late and a dollar short. Where Civil War came out a little before Batman vs Superman, and
no, sir, Batman v Superman came out a few months before Civil War.
Really?
Yeah, Civil War was just well liked.
Much worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. And okay. There was also the Flash and No Way Home came out like close to each other, and like one of those multiverse mashups was much better received.
Right.
Never mind like how big of a retread the Justice League movie was to the Thanos stuff, where we're doing it's mother of boxes, so it's nothing like Infinity Stones, obviously, but visually it looks the same. And this is the first time that it's felt like, to me, Marvel's coming in after DC has already like accomplished all the same stuff. I mean, down to like the Superman movie and this Fantastic Four movie both have fun like house robots that are like comic relief characters.
They do, yeah,
for Happy Meals.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I imagine this is actually going to bite into the final box office tally for both films. I think that they are cannibalizing one another a little bit, and neither of these are going to be just these massive billion-dollar films because they're both in theaters right now. And I think that probably limits the ceiling on both of them. And they both wanted to be huge. I think the intention here was let's really get people on board with Superman and with this new part of the MCU, the Fantastic Four, so we can make movies about them for at least the next decade. And I think that'll probably still happen. These are well received. They've done pretty well, but I think both are kind of the fact that they're so similar also kind of contributes to the feeling of more superhero stuff. It's the continuation of many more superhero films. This is the 37th MCU film. It is the I believe
it's a very large number.
The 7th standalone Superman film, and he's also appeared in several other films within the Snyderverse as well. So, and the 5th Fantastic Four film.
It's also, they're not just like stepping on each other's box office. I think they're hurting each other in terms of like the audience experience and in terms of what they're trying to accomplish. Part of what they're both trying to accomplish is a reboot, is the resetting of things. And we know you've seen 36 superhero movies. We're going to show you one that's a bit different. And like from the Snyderverse to Superman, it's very much different. This is kind of a shift, less of a sharp one, but
and also rather like Superman.
Yeah, watching the two big superhero franchises in such short order both reboot themselves into something much more similar to each other now.
That is weird.
Like defeats the impression of this feels new and fresh. It's like already feeling stale 2 weeks later.
Shit. Yeah. I mean, there is a scenario I think where these two films coming out together this summer reignites enthusiasm and passion for superhero movies. Essentially, a version of the Iron Man Dark Knight summer. Where we kind of like restate what these are going to be, introduce the premise and the sort of the excitement to a whole new audience. I don't think that quite happened. I know that that would have been the ideal. They got a little closer than they might have. I think these are both successful films. As to films that I think they're going to mean something to people, I don't know. Maybe that's just speaking as me, who is now in my 40s, and maybe has less excitement and and less enthusiasm, having been here through the entire superhero thing. Would kids dig these, though? Is there a chance this did work? Maybe.
I think Superman has a better chance of resonating for longer, both for several reasons. One, it's Superman, and he is bigger than the Fantastic Four. And we'll have to talk a little later about, are the Fantastic Four themselves part of the problem here? Like they're sort of comic book royalty, but is there a reason why they're the hardest to get right in the 21st century on screen? But Superman has the edge on everybody in terms of just immortality, recognizability, all that.
He's second man to Batman, though, even in the DC.
But he's going to be the cornerstone of this universe going forward in a way that the Marvel universe is more expansive already. Not everything going forward is going to be spinning out of this Fantastic Four movie. It's going to be mashed into a bunch of other already existing stuff at some point.
In the next film, in fact, yes.
And then there's the thing that I think Superman has a better chance of resonating with children because that Superman movie is, I think, tonally and thematically more up children's alley, whereas this Fantastic Four movie is, to the extent that it's about anything, it's a lot about like parenthood and having babies and stuff, and that's maybe not as resonant to children.
I was very surprised by some of the decisions made narratively in this film. I kind of liked it all, but it did make it, I don't know, it made it a bit more serious business than it seemed like the film wanted to be. At least going in, I'm looking at, robot butlers and, mole men. These things are in the film. Flying cars. I didn't expect a film about, that is somewhat about cosmic Lovecraftian horror, and also somewhat about parenthood and sacrifice and the fickle nature of human beings, and a lot of big ideas and not much room for comedy. Superman is a overplaced comedy, maybe. I don't know. I enjoyed that. I was surprised how serious Fantastic Four was. They did not have room for jokes, is what it seemed.
I don't know if serious is the word I would use, but yeah, it's played more straighter than you would expect. Some of this very overtly goofy stuff is. And, I did not expect that the basic plot of this movie would be that of Stephen King's Storm of the Century.
Yeah.
But that was where we ended up. And, okay.
Which is interesting, but I'm surprised.
Yeah. Okay. How are you with the Fantastic Four generally? Were they important to you in comics form?
No, never read the comics. I've seen all the movies, don't like any of them. I think just through osmosis, I have a general idea of everyone's vibe and their roles and things they've done. But no, I've kind of never gave a shit about the Fantastic Four, I would say.
Me neither. And I was a total, Marvel zombie growing up, but that was the one that they would appear in the crossovers that I had, but I don't know that I owned a single Fantastic Four titled comic book. But I knew who everybody was. I knew a lot of their backstory and their villains through osmosis like that. And I was trying to think about why that is, because they are sort of one of the central, pillars of the Marvel universe. And but they were the one I didn't care about. And I think maybe that's because by the time I was getting into comics, the Fantastic Four were into the Franklin Richards era. And I've decided, watching this movie, I think, an all-powerful infant is a very uninteresting character to me, or outside of the context of a Twilight Zone episode.
It's interesting. This is actually the exact tactic that the first Superman reboot attempt took. The Bryan Singer film was also about a super infant.
Well, and the Incredibles have one too, don't they? So.
Certainly do. Yeah, that's the one I was reminded of as well, because The Incredibles is, of course, a play on the Fantastic Four.
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, remains the best Fantastic Four movie, such as it is. It is far and away the best. And it has a lot of the things this movie is doing, too. I kind of feel like maybe you should have just got Brad Bird on this one, really. we got the retrofuturism, we got the sort of the 50s version of what the Tomorrowland Walt Disney constructed version of the future. It's got the sort of the family dynamic, with contrasting with the superheroes. It's got the Silver Age villains. It's it's kind of the whole deal. So in a way, that even this new approach to Fantastic Four, setting it in this in Earth 828, as we're told that known, it's not original even now. It is a movie that that we've all seen and that is quite popular.
Yeah, and even if originals, right? Yeah, it's not new. It doesn't feel like it. It does not. You say technically, it's stuff we haven't seen before in live action, but it's like in live action, comma from the MCU, comma like it's these qualifiers are all attached onto there.
And they've made a movie about Galactus and the Silver Surfer before too. Badly,
yes,
they did it better this time, but it's still not new.
The Franklin Richards of it all. I don't know what his deal ended up becoming in comics, but I knew that in the 90s I was sick of hearing about him and how like big a deal he was going to be or supposed to be or whatever. And so I was a little deflated when this movie just opens up, like first scene with we're having a baby. You know what an 8-year-old boy really does not want to read about is like a story where a 6-year-old boy is the most important and powerful person in the universe.
That's true. I was never, when I was a kid, I was never really taken by the junior sidekicks or the little kid version of the guy. I don't know. I like Short Round, but short of that, I'm always found myself kind of annoyed and pandered to in a way. When
I liked
the kid was
Robin
included
in the animated series, because I think maybe like I was just a couple years younger than that, instead of a couple years older, like that. That's what you want. You want them a little bit older than you. I did. There's a difference maybe between the little brother version of it and the child, or like the kid, the son of. It's not quite the same thing as Superman Junior. as it is. I don't know. There's something to dig into there. I think it probably boils down to I'm a middle child, and that
sure.
And so I often got stuck playing with the Robin action figure, or being Robin in the video game. Like I had to play a lot of Mario games as Luigi.
For me, I think it's sort of an offshoot of my distaste when I was a kid of 90s kid culture, Nickelodeons, and kids rule, kids court. Kids are rebels. I found that so irritating and patronizing, frankly. And any youngster with attitude really bothered me.
No, I mean we don't need to go through Edward Furlong's trials again here.
Right, but, exactly.
Maybe it was just like after that is the last time it worked for me, and then it was hard to follow that up with a better version of it.
I think that's right. Yeah. But Franklin Richards is a baby in this, and looks like he will be a baby for at least some time. He looks like he'll be a living MacGuffin for the immediate future. I imagine that the next Avengers films will be based around him, based on what we've seen in this film. Yeah,
well, they also jump forward 5 years in the end credits. So,
oh God, that's right. I forgot that was a jump forward. God. Okay, so he'll be 6.
But still, it's to just all the tease is, another villain is after him now. And.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess I'm eager to get to Doom, but
are you though?
No, because I think the Downey thing is a really bad decision if it's not like.
It seems like they really fucked that up, right? No, I think it will be pertinent. I think it'll matter that he's Tony Stark, but I don't like that. I don't think that's better. Like if you were telling me Cillian Murphy is playing Doom, I'd be like, well, hell yeah, okay, let's do that. I'd be very excited if he showed up at the end of this movie.
I don't know if that particularly would do it for me, because I think Doom is so much about the voice, and that's one thing Murphy lacks, who's,
fair enough,
a pretty complete package otherwise, but he does not have a big commanding voice. You know who else doesn't have a big, booming, commanding voice? Robert Downey Jr.
I'm a little annoyed they didn't at least let us know if he was going to be doing an accent, because that's kind of what I was hoping for. I was like, okay, let's hear it. Is he doing it? Is he doing some Latvian accent, please? Didn't even give us that.
That's the most potential for him to have some fun there.
It is the biggest question mark around that performance for me. Is like, what's the voice going to be? I'm going to be pissed if it's just Robert Downey Jr., though. And I think there's a good chance that's what it's going to be.
So should we talk about casting here then, the rest of this cast?
Yes. I thought this was a very well-chosen cast, actually. I sensed you were hesitant about one or two of them. Was that right?
I think, surprised to say, I think Pedro Pascal was the weak spot.
Really?
Not because he's bad. I just think he's fundamentally miscast as, the uptight nerd with no swag. Like, when we saw him, we were introduced to him as the Red Viper. Like, I didn't say to myself, holy shit, there's the next Reed Richards right there. Like, obviously he could be a superhero. That was clear, but like Red Viper was kind of a superhero of the Game of Thrones universe. But the guy whose flaw is sort of like a lack of charisma, that's an odd thing to ask of Pascal. He's a good enough actor that he can pull it off, and it's not like immediately pulling you out. But a day later, I'm like, yeah, there's probably a majority of other superhero roles that he could have pulled off just as well.
A swagger guy, sure. Some sort of swashbuckler type. I don't know, the swordsman from.
Tony Dalton, I think, is sort of. I mean, they seem like they could be like they could play brothers.
Yeah, totally. That seems to be a natural thing. I think the idea was he's going to make that sort of awkwardness feel relatable. That he's going to bring you in to a sort of a cold fish of a character by just the natural charisma of Pedro Pascal, not unlike, say, a Jake Gyllenhaal and Donnie Darko type situation. You see your own insecurities through the prism of a very charismatic, very, very beloved leading man. He's got sort of a Clark Gable look in this with the mustache and he's got swagger even as he's playing a math nerd. He does seem like more of a fuckboy than Human Torch, which might be a bit of a problem, I guess.
I thought, Human Torch was fine. I didn't really know that guy from other stuff, but I thought he was pretty good. Evan Moss-Baccarat, I feel like doesn't have a lot of room in this performance to do too much, but
they gave the thing very little.
Yeah, with the bits he's given, he pulls them off. And then Vanessa Kirby, I must have seen her in something before, but I can't think of what it was.
She's been in Mission Impossible films and Napoleon recently was her big stuff.
Yeah, okay, I haven't seen any of those recently. So no, she was I think she was pretty good. They gave a lot of this hinged on Sue. I think the unfortunate part is with that central plot, Storm of the Century plot. It just fell face first into the trap that a lot of these big adventure movies that set up this type of dilemma do, which is that it's like the heroes have to choose between, I can save the world or I can save my one true love, or in this case, my baby or whatever. But this is one of the cases where it's like Galactus says, I will spare the Earth if you give me your baby. And they're like, so obviously we said no. And I think you do have to actually talk that one out, because it's not like the deal is, or I will eat the Earth and your baby gets to go live a happy life. It's like the baby goes down with the Earth in that case.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So, I think you at least do, I'm kind of on the fickle crowd side a little bit here.
Yeah, this movie is not prepared to have that conversation, really. I mean...
But it does have it for half an hour.
Yeah, which is a problem, I would say. It's a difficult story to take on if that's not what your entire movie is about, and there's way too much... I mean, we're in space for a good section of this film. We have mole men. We have, a lot of things going on. And frankly, it feels like, trying to actually, Storm of the Century this out, is kind of counter to the actual goals of Fantastic Four First Steps. So why include it as a plot point? I guess the importance of, Franklin Richards for the larger scope of the MCU is a big part of that. But yeah, like I didn't find Sue's big speech about the kid particularly compelling. Not enough to shut down that angle of the story when it occurs, because we're done giving that any time. I mean, there's something. Well, first off, they could have just not said that part.
Yeah.
No, we chose to let you all die to save our son. Except we're not even saving him. Don't say that part. Problem solved.
Also say that. Yeah, we tried to negotiate, didn't work. Like, you don't have to be a PR genius. And it's like, I understand that. I think the concept there is going for something about Reed Richards' character that he's unable to love, making him more of a Ned Stark type. That he will be honorable to the point of being stupid. But that's way too stupid. And also, like, he had a month surrounded by the other people who aren't stupid in that exact same way to be, like, figuring out what they're going to say. Like, I don't know. At least dramatize those discussions. Let's see a little bit of that.
I would say this movie feels like they shot a film that ended up being about 2 hours and 45 minutes long. And they were like, oh, shit. We got to cut this down some. And it feels like they did a pretty artful job of tightening it up. But I do think there's a significant amount of this movie that is probably not in the final edit, sadly. We know there's a 15-minute sequence with John Malkovich as a supervillain called the Red Ghost, who has an army of super apes. I would like that to be in the film, please. But
the apes made it in. Briefly.
Could have had more apes, though. This movie could have had more super apes. And they opted not for that. If he had a similar arc to Mole Man, where he's like a villain in the first part, and then sort of grudgingly helps out in the third act, I think that would have been a lot of fun. Not in the movie. That's kind of too bad, but I imagine there's more that's missing. Like specifically, the people of Earth turning on the Fantastic Four plotline is incredibly underbaked for being in the film. It just sort of seems like you couldn't take it out, maybe. That it had too much...
Not entirely,
weight support in the narrative.
And I would just think, did they turn back just because she gave the speech with the baby in front of the statue? Like,
I mean, basically. I mean, they also come up with an idea to move the planet, which...
What?
Seems problematic, but you know what? It's Silver Age comics. It's fine. And it doesn't work.
I guess I was bumping on that pretty hard.
What about the tide? What about the? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. You found if the sun was 2.5% smaller, would that not create some pretty big differences in our day-to-day lives? How many species of birds are going to go extinct? Yeah.
I mean, it's a big silly cartoon.
If we have a 22-hour, 45-minute day now instead of 24, I guess the Earth's still spinning. Yeah, it doesn't seem to hold up too much. And it's just like, yeah, I want to go yada yada Silver Age, whatever. Who cares? But it's like, you're also doing sequences that revolve around the need to have artificial gravity while a woman is giving birth in space because she has to be able to push properly. And then that's... also there's time dilation effects of slingshotting around a neutron star. Like, this movie tries to do too much interstellar stuff to completely hand wave away the big, dumb Silver Age stuff.
Kind of. That is true. That is some of my favorite stuff in the film, is when they're actually dealing with that shit in a Silver Age way. I would say when this movie is cooking is that space sequence, man. I'm very into that. It's just a sort of a plethora of ideas presented on screen. A lot of cool stuff. It all looks good. This is one of the best looking MCU films, I would argue. I think the special effects in this film are excellent. Excellent special. It looked better than Superman for me by a lot. This was one of the few that actually kind of feels like spectacle. For me,
thought it looked a lot like Superman with a little less bold of a color palette.
I would agree the aesthetic is very similar, but the things that are being photographed, the surfer riding the board across the edge of an event horizon and shit like that. Everything with Galactus. He's a way more interesting kaiju than the kaiju in Superman. I just think what I was actually seeing on screen was very creative and neat and really well rendered for the most part. Not 100%. There's moments when baby Franklin is being carried by various members of the Fantastic Four that don't look as good, but overall, I mean, if I'm saying like what this film really had going for it, I think I'm probably saying how it looked, the special effects, just the things they chose to put on screen, and I guess the score is kind of exceptional as well.
Okay, maybe to what I was into. I mean, the middle act space stuff was fun, but the thing that I really liked about this movie was Galactus.
Yes.
I was like a little, antsy through the first half of the movie, I guess. And then we got to, okay, yes, we've actually got giant purple glowing alien man. And it's Ralph Ineson, which, if the Nobel Committee recognized achievements in casting,
right.
This, I mean, it's up there with like I think we talked about this with Superman. Rachel Brosnahan's Lois Lane is like, yes, that is the objectively correct answer. Like, we can put that in science books. And this, Ralph Ineson, also the objectively correct answer to be Galactus. And I loved that he was a big giant purple man and was tearing up New York, and how he was indifferent, mildly but dickishly amused at the Fantastic Four trying to actually fight him.
Yeah. Those clever little bugs. That's my favorite line in the thing. He is, I think you're right to call this out as a triumph of casting. I mean, what he is allowed to do, is of course within his wheelhouse. It's something you've seen Ralph Ineson do versions of this before plenty of times, but you take the weight of a character like Galactus, and you need somebody to fill those shoes, and they found the exact right guy, the guy who is, makes it look easy, and he's got that voice, and I would say that face. There's pictures of him. I was a little surprised to discover he actually put on the uniform. He was there. He was doing.
Yeah, I wasn't I forgot who had been cast this whole time until like the end credits. I was like, they're nailing us, and it was disguised enough that I wasn't like, oh, of course, that's Ralph Ineson. Like, there's so much, but I was like, oh yeah. I think what it was is once I saw his name in the credits, I was like, oh, they weren't like adjusting his voice nearly as much as like digitally as much as I had assumed.
No, that's just him. He's great. He's terrific, and Galactus is really terrific as realized in this film. That, I mean, for not having read Fantastic Four, I've definitely have a cultural understanding of Galactus at this point, and it kind of worked beyond what I ever imagined it would. And perhaps if I had read the comics, I'd be like, yeah, that this is how it's always supposed to be. But how I've always imagined it being is a very silly villain. And he was actually kind of scary here. Like I said, it dabbles in cosmic horror when he's involved, and that's cool. That's it's at odds with the the robot butlers, golly gee willikers vibe of the Fantastic Four retrofuturism that I was kind of expecting, but it worked, so I can't complain about it.
Yeah, it's okay for the villain, I think, of something like that to be a little at odds with that vibe. It does give things a sense of danger or stakes even within that environment. If the villain's a little realer than the rest of the environment. And so real is the wrong word there, but at the end of the day, he was very big and very purple, and I have to respect that.
Yeah, one of the more memorable villains in a comic book film in a while, and and feels very much true to its inspiration and origin, whatever they changed that I'm not aware of, it didn't matter. It was the thing presented finally in really good detail, and they can use them again, which is kind of cool. Like, I wouldn't mind seeing. Well, I tell you, my big problem here with this, another big problem with Doom, is I would be very into seeing these actors go up against their version of Doom. And I feel we're not really going to see that beyond whatever mess this next two Avengers films are with
Right.
Robert Downey Jr. And then we'll have, taken one of the major parts of this world out, just stripped it out completely for the purposes of the Avengers films when, and without him, I'm sure they have other villains to fight. But, that might have been something to build a trilogy on pretty easily, I would imagine. Having them actually fight a comic accurate Doom would have been good for these guys.
Probably, but it's also been done in the movies a couple of times and to not great effect. So I could understand.
So was Galactus.
Yes, well, yeah, once as opposed to, I don't know. I guess I don't know. I never saw the Josh Trank one. That was a Doctor Doom also, right?
Yeah, he's in there. So his name alone, kind of. It's a shame, and not having read much Fantastic Four, I still am familiar with Doom from the comics, and I would love them to get him right. It seems like that is the real bridge too far. Even as we're seeing them finally get Superman and Galactus right, Doom still seems elusive. A shame, but I don't know. Maybe Danny will surprise us all. But at this point, man, I can't imagine those things being any better than sort of an entertaining mess.
Let me ask you this: did they get the Silver Surfer right in this one?
I mean, I guess, yeah, it's fine.
That's kind of the thing. I think they did, but I think that's because I don't care about the Silver Surfer.
Right.
This it did the beats that I'm familiar with, and did them competently enough. But I've already seen them done badly, or okay, in animated form, or in the other, Fishman form. I thought Julia Garner was good, but ultimately the Silver Surfer stuff. The presentation of that was fine in this, and it got overshadowed by how much I was digging the presentation of Galactus. And so by the end, I think I wanted more Silver Surfer in this movie, but I really just wanted more Galactus.
I mean, she is part of the effects that I was impressed by. I thought she looked pretty incredible on screen all the time, so I thought that worked. I do feel like they had maybe bit off a little bit more story than they could chew with these characters. And maybe, I get why they don't want their Fantastic Four First Steps film to be 2 hours and 40 minutes. Nobody wanted that. So maybe they did the right thing in tightening this up. And it is, I would say, again, an artful tightening up, even as I was aware of it. I think it all held together pretty well. I just kind of felt like I was, when it came to most characters, getting a little less than the full articulation in almost every case.
I think with the core characters, at least maybe it's just they had good enough actors that they could stretch what they were given appropriately, or at least with like the Thing. Where I felt that compression was in the scope of this world, this alternate reality, Earth 828, Tomorrowland, alternate thing. That's pretty well realized in terms of like art direction, I guess. And somehow this world feels very small, just even though the stakes are really like planetary, like cosmic even. Mm-hmm. But there are, outside of the Fantastic Four, there are 3 supporting characters in the whole movie. And each of them is paired off with a team member, so that there isn't even one supporting character for each of the 4 members. But it's just like, Human Torch gets to talk to Silver Surfer. Nobody else does. And Sue Storm has her assistant that is their sort of administrator or whatever, that, does her Aaron Sorkin walk and talks with once or twice. And then the Thing talks to Natasha Lyonne twice.
Right.
And then I guess we have Mark Gatiss doing his TV show as our bookend framing device. I don't know, it didn't feel that populated with people.
Very much. And I think another function of this being cut up a little. For example, the I don't even know this character's name. The black lady that Reed Richards talks to, I couldn't figure out if she was the producer of Mark Gatiss' show or the president for like half the film. One of the two. It seemed very odd to me that they were landing and talking to the producer of Mark's show. So I was like, maybe she's the president. Like,
I thought she was there, like head of PR or something like that.
Unclear.
But this
Like,
world, like it looks good, but it's not sketched out very well in terms of how it's tossed off how like they
mm,
are convincing all the United Nations to disarm like their militaries,
yeah.
and, like that changes a lot about how the world functions. Like I think I mean, yeah, probably the idea of the scene with the thing, entertaining the kids, was to establish that even though this world looks different, people still kind of like have day to day lives that we would understand. Uh, but that's a little hard. Like this is a bit too much of an else world for me to wrap my head around. Like, okay, I guess this is a world where people are just like, yeah, we can teleport the Earth to another solar system, and that's probably going to be okay.
I mean, it does feel a little like a diorama world that exists for the Fantastic Four to exist in. Like it is a world based around the existence of them.
Yes,
And it hasn't been filled out really beyond their function there, and that's why people seem like robots a little bit, or yes, that it's a Silver Age world, I guess. Which, I mean, it's a way to go. I mean, you could even make the argument that that is an aesthetic choice, that everyone is kind of just exists within their relation to the Fantastic Four in this world. They're all, oh, we all love the Fantastic Four. Oh, no, we all hate the Fantastic Four now. And they speak as one.
Tell us how you beat Galactus.
Yeah.
I love that, just the complete inability of that entire room full of of that gaggle of professional reporters to like read the expressions on anybody's face.
So it's all done, right? You all won. Yeah, we all won, right? How'd you do it? Yeah, I get that. It feels a little like a choice that the world is presented in those terms, because it does feel kind of smaller, It's just that we've also got, Storm of the Century stuff going on. Yeah. We've got pregnancies taking place in zero gravity, or excuse me, not pregnancies, births. Yeah, that's kind of heavy stuff to take on, and then to kind of undercut by keeping it, as simple as possible, and I don't know, like,
yeah, maybe if you have a populated world of like, it feels like there are real people in that world, then it becomes a lot harder to just blithely get behind Sue's assertion that her son is worth the equivalent of 6 billion other people combined. If we actually believe any of those people exist, like if we get a little too, if we get in to see the other side of the fence of that, all those kids in that school. The thing's entertaining, then we have to think about like, okay, so she's gonna let all Jimmy there and Susie and Timmy and Becky are all gonna die. Okay, yeah, I think that's just a tough tonal thing for this movie to square. That like the plot it has chosen with the tone it's chosen,
I agree,
don't mesh together completely artfully. But the big purple guy, he gave the Statue of Liberty sass, and then he sniffed a handful of like of Manhattan dirt, like he's like it's the cork out of a wine bottle.
That was all fun. I mean, when it's being fun and silly, I think that honestly, if they had maybe made it sillier, even well, I mean, I think I opened this episode saying something like that if they had kind of played up how silly this all is. And I know people complain about the comedy of the MCU, and everyone's
too jokey
and too sassy, and everyone's doing Tony Stark witticisms. I hear you, but this movie probably should have been pretty funny. This had everything it needed to be comic and silly. I think that the world they've created is a world that is inherently most fun if it's not serious. And yes, you can do Galactus in there because he is also a bit silly when you get right down to it.
Yes,
but there is, I think having a lighter touch with that stuff. And well, here's what I loved in this. Here's something I thought was wonderful. Mole Man. I thought Paul Walter Hauser fucking ruled in his 3 minutes of screen time. I thought he had the tone that I was looking for like the whole movie. And I don't necessarily I don't need more Mole Man necessarily. Wouldn't have minded, but I think that kind of, he's embracing the silliness. He's not commenting on it. He's just committing. He's wearing silly goggles and he's making little snarls like a mole would, and being a Silver Age villain is like, well, I don't trust you, Reed, but I'll trust Sue. And then, and he's being stupid. And he actually has a satisfying arc over the course of his 3 minutes on screen. And
that is odd. I think I agree. I liked Hauser and Mole Man. Also, a performance and depiction that could have just been in the Superman movie with zero alterations. Like,
a lot of this stuff I think Superman does better. Honestly, the world in particular, world building of Superman is much better. I would argue.
I think so. Metropolis felt more populated. Not even overpopulated to the point of, I don't know if we needed as much Justice Gang as we ended up getting there, but it felt like, for the core four to have so few other people to interact with, like, we should have had more deeper stuff about like the relationships between the four of them. And this movie only got into anything like kind of deeper, kind of heavy with the Storm of the Century stuff, and between Reed and Sue. And that, like I said, I just bumped on that because what Reed was being berated for, I was like, no, but like, come on, we have to think about that. Like, are you insane?
Yeah. Wrote themselves into a corner there. I'm just so surprised that's the story they chose to tell.
There is something like it's using the Franklin Richards like uber powerfulness or whatever to make someone effective MacGuffin for Galactus in this way. But,
and probably for Doctor Doom in the next two films is, I imagine, part of the decision making there is that they are beholden to future movies and what they wanted to do there. That's my guess. We know it's about Franklin. We know that from the post-credit scene. So
we need more Mole Man. At least he wasn't trying to steal the baby. Like I think he said he wanted to steal the building that had just been built. I guess just bring it underground and have it be an underground skyscraper.
Yeah, even maybe even having Malkovich as the ape guy would have helped in that regard. Just to fill out the world a little bit. I don't know. It doesn't feel like Natasha Lyonne's bringing anything to this. As much as I love her, she's, like literally anyone could have done that. Basically say, hey, you want to come over here thing?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I think this was fun. I enjoyed this. I think it's a good time out. The Galactus stuff alone and the a lot of that. And I think it just looks good. It made it worthwhile for me. Between like head to head, this and Superman, I think Superman slight edge. I think Superman has some things that hold it back as well that maybe Fantastic Four does a little better, but ultimately I think I'd probably see myself watching that film more. If I'm rewatching either of them very much though, which I don't know. I could see.
I think I agree with you on all those things there. That I'll rewatch Superman first. I give it the edge, and I did have a pretty good time with this walking out of the theater, and it's just but the next day I already started settling in. Like, this is a pretty good time, pretty decent superhero movie, and then it's sort of like starting to weigh on me more that. But didn't this needed to be a little more than that? Didn't it?
I think they wanted it to be. Yeah,
it's supposed to also be a load-bearing thing for for more than that, and we'll see how that works out. I guess they have a core cast that's pretty capable, so maybe that's the main thing they need.
The next two Avengers movies, I've more or less kind of at this point, I'm just like, let's get through these. I'm a little curious as to what kind of a mess they're going to be, but I have very little hope or expectation that they're going to come anywhere near to being as good as the Thanos films, for example. Let alone,
oh no, I think that ship's already sailed.
Right? It's just a mess that we're going to have to deal with. It might be interesting, but I think the salad days are over here, and their best hope is that when the dust clears after that, they have something to work with, which I assume is X-Men, and I hope that we get to see the Fantastic Four continue to do Silver Age shit afterwards. I guess that's a triumph, is that I want to see these characters again in this world.
Yeah. I think the only to make the Doomsday and Secret Wars work it's going to take a really kind of, it's going to all be on the an incredible villain portrayal to pull that off. Which, you know, it's like, yeah, it's doable. They've done it, kind of did it with Thanos. You know, they can surprise us with a Killmonger here and there. We have a hard time seeing that because we don't see the Downey Jr. being Doom angle adding up to that in any way. So I don't know. Like, do you think there's any chance that, in the spirit of like just recognizing that Phase 5, Phase 6, whatever we're on now, have largely been botched, that either Doomsday or Secret Wars kind of just does a Transformers the movie kind of clearing of the deck and just slaughters a bunch of the less beloved characters in the early going and clears the deck to be more Fantastic Four and X-Men centric going forward?
Well, I mean, what are you even holding on to at that point? We know there will not really be new X-Men in this thing. Like, it's going to be the old X-Men. You know, where even fucking Nightcrawler's in his late 50s, you know, like this is this is going to be, you know, the old cast. It's a curtain call for everybody, perhaps.
Do we know that? They're bringing the old cast back?
Well, I know James Marsden and Alan Cumming and Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen.
Oh, really?
Hugh Jackman, like a lot of them.
I didn't even know that.
Rebecca Romaine, like everybody from the old X-Men is coming back, essentially. They were on the director's chair seats. You remember that thing where they scrolled over all the director's chairs with the names on them? No,
I'd be like, I try to avoid the pre-production stuff on this so I can go in as forget who's playing Galactus. Well, that's disheartening. I was talking about like maybe they could kill off Ironheart and Red Guardian and half the Thunderbolts and.
Well, I mean, it is curious. I mean, what they've said, I think publicly, is that there'll be 3 tiers going on after these Avengers films. The path forward is 3 storylines. One is mutants, one is cosmic stories, and the third one is supernatural stories. That's all they've given us. There's no actual titles announced after that. Presumably, there's like half a dozen films in pre-production at this point.
Hey, that's, what they just need to do is...
Yeah. Well, they said they're doing an X-Men movie. There's an X-Men movie comes out after that. That's all we really know. So, they're not going to stop making...
That's covered by the mutant angle.
Right. Yeah. That's what that'll be.
They just need to stop setting release dates 2 years in advance and, finish a script before you make a movie. It's wild to me how resistant Disney is to that, like, Occam's razor, explanation for the majority of their woes over the last 7 or 8 years.
Oh, well, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that they are just in it for the short-term gains, right? I mean, this is a board of directors that stands to make a lot more money by making Lilo and Stitch remakes than building in the short term, in the 10 years or so when they're going to be on this board serving, and they'll make all the money by strip mining properties and forcing as much out as fast as possible, than building a sustainable future for their all their massive
for their corporate grandchildren. Yeah,
they don't give a fuck. And
that's right. It's just so crazy. It's how quickly they forget like what got them to that spot.
Well, they didn't build it. They purchased it right after the first Avengers came out. Once it was an effective thing that was on wheels. And then they just tried to duplicate that with Star Wars.
For 10 more years of building up and out and relatively unmolested. And I don't know. It's there. I suppose you're right. It's late stage capitalism. It's our dumb century here.
No, I mean, they are capable of producing good ones. There does seem to be an MCU ceiling. I don't think it's at all possible for an MCU film at this point to reach The Dark Knight. They can't do that. That's far too far. But they can get pretty good, and we might get. I imagine there's enough quality control, and they are aware of their problems that we probably will get some good stuff out of the future. It's just going to take a while to get there. We got to clear out the deck of all this extra shit that we've accumulated over the last 2 phases.
Yeah, we need to get to the X-Men. I think that's what you were. I think you were kind of intimating at that. That's our best chance to actually get this turned over into a version that's functional, but not a bit different than what we had for the last 15 years.
So that said, I would have more faith in the gun DC situation at this moment.
Yeah.
But, whatever. Maybe just, I'd love it if we just didn't have these as much. That'd be cool. Yeah. We did other things.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thanks for listening. Remember when we really liked Quantum Mania? Remember that?
I mean, we'll do another one of these, I guess, before too long. Yeah.